We get another debut. We have a debut. And I warned Margaret. I said this. I said, okay, so if you're coming in the morning show, make sure that you have your caffeinated beverage with you. That is perfectly fine. So any guest that has, that comes in the morning show, especially with the busy day that she had yesterday at Front Office Sports, I said, look, here's what we do. It's a morning show. We have fun. We try to be informative. You can have your caffeinated beverage with you. Look, we have folks that have their animals with them that invade screens. But Margaret is not in a position where she can have animals invade, I don't think. You don't have animals ready to invade, Margaret, do you?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, just checking. Because like I said, there have been times where we have, guests that are normally in their home studios and things like that. And you'll see a cat wandering across the screen and stomping on a keyboard, that kind of a thing. So it's perfectly fine, perfectly legal here at the morning show. And so I'm glad that we were able to get you on short notice about what's going on in the NWSL. It's coming fast and furious these days with the franchises now.
No, seriously. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So Columbus, Ohio. And I keep having to remind folks here where we're based. It's like, no, not the Western Frontier, not Columbus, GA, while they have a great stuff going on in the Western Frontier. It is Columbus, Ohio, great soccer market. And this seems to have come together pretty quickly because you saw in their social media campaigns, it's like, hashtag NWSL to, CLB or whatever, CBUS. And all of a sudden it goes from this, hey, sign this petition campaign to the vote by the city council to the announcement yesterday. It seems like that this just came on the hop here.
It moved pretty quickly for sure. For people who are unfamiliar, there was a vote on Monday and another vote on Tuesday. There was the city council and then the county talking about giving some public funding toward an NWSL team. And locally, it was pretty controversial because there was no NWSL team. And on top of that, it's giving a public park to a private soccer club, a public park that there had been, years long plans to renovate and redevelop in an underserved community that, now is being promised a new park and, see how all that goes. But all to say, it was pretty contentious and there was no team. And then, next day comes the announcement. 18th franchise for Columbus, Ohio. So kind of a whirlwind week there so far for Columbus, but they are up next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that for those that kind of keep an eye on our studio space, if I was to shift to my left, camera right, you'll notice the team 17 right here with that one. So 17 turns into 18. And the crazy thing is, when you look at Denver, Boston, Atlanta, Columbus, it's like the rights fee is just like, all right, so we're going to close our eyes and, spin the dial, and it's going to be just like The Price is Right. And it's going to be the, cliffhanger dude that goes up the hill and it's like, stop. And you throw the dart and it's like 53. And then you stop, you keep it going again. 110, 150. What is this with the increase of the franchise fees in such short order? Is that confidence, or where do you think that comes from?
I have a couple thoughts here. I think it's confidence. I think people want a team. I think there's plenty of cities that would like to have an NWSL team right now. Columbus, already has a soccer stadium that they can go in. There were willing owners who clearly have the financial capital to, invest into a team. And so I think that it's kind of, you don't want to grow too fast, you don't want to grow too fast. But I think when it comes to Columbus specifically, it makes a lot of sense for the league to want to go there. They're already going there this year for a Challenge Cup. And that's been such a big soccer market for, ever. And yeah, when it comes to the rising fees, I think it kind of speaks to the time. It speaks to the demand for like people who want to own a club. That they, the NWSL is raising the price and they're saying yes. It's also, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt because it's like these are, major NFL owners and, people who have multiple sports teams, and like, $205 million is huge and amazing and record breaking. And at the same time, like, they're, have billions. So it's the growth is happening, and at the same time, it's like go to people who are more able and willing to put that forward. My other thought here though is like right on NWSL. I think about to compare to the WNBA when you think about kind of these growing leagues at this time with these rising expansion fees. And we saw last year the WNBA announced they've also had new expansion teams and the fees going up, and they announced 3 teams for 28, 29, 2030 in 3 different cities and kept it at that flat rate. And they'd been building before that, it went up. Those were more than what Golden State was, than what Toronto was, and what Portland was. But still, they planned really far in advance at a fee for now. And there's a whole argument of that, of like, should they have waited and it would have been higher? They want the money sooner, or are they capitalizing on the success now? Would it go down? You just don't know. And I think seeing how it's been rising, I give credit to the NWSL for I don't know where the bid was at. It might not have been together, but like they could have waited or they could have done Columbus then, when they did Atlanta at the same time, taking less money, but they kind of waited for the 2 and kind of got more money out of Columbus than Atlanta by like waiting and going. So I think it's the rising expansion fees are, a great thing that puts more money into the league, into the system, pays, players more at the end of the day, gets better facilities, all the things. So I think it's a great thing for the league to have the rising expansion, but I give them credit for kind of assessing them individually and letting those go up, and not, choosing now for, to criticize the W 5 years down the line.
Yeah. And it's like the rate of return, it's like, yeah, we're going to wait a couple of months. So Atlanta comes in at X price. And then it's like, yeah, we're going to wait. We'll wait a couple of months. And all of a sudden the Haslams and Mr. Edwards come in. They sit there. It's like, man, the rate of return just from there to there.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's 40 million more. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great play. It's like you wait a couple of months. Yeah, 40 million more. That's a good rate.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you, and you may not know this, what is the distribution? Is it like in other leagues where the expansion fee comes in and it's chopped up with all of the current members and the league, or does it go straight to the league and then they redistribute that way? Where does the expansion fee, what's the breakdown?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how they're exactly doing it these days, with all this money coming in. If there's like a different, if they handle, 53 million differently than 205, or if it's the exact same. But the NWSL is a single owned, like single entity. So the teams all kind of report to the league. It is these like franchises and these expansion teams, and they all have their own ownership. But at the end of the day, like every team is owned by the league. So that goes to the league, and the league can kind of, I would assume that it's kind of, it goes to the league, and then the league can kind of figure out what it wants to do with it. I would, kind of assume that they're gonna, follow the model of giving it to the spreading the wealth, giving it around. But to be honest, I'm not really quite sure how they're.
Here's a 20 for you and a 20 for you, and a 20 for you. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't know if you knew if there was a percentage breakdown, if it was all even partners. Since it is single entity, the league sits there and it's like, no, we'll take that, and then we'll figure out you get a 20 and you get a 20. So right now, and they're going to play at Scott's Miracle Grow. We just call it the Death Star. I mean, that's what they called it. So fine, we're going to call it the Death Star. So they're going to play in that venue. I'm hoping that they really have their horticulturalists and all of their folks to maintain that turf and make sure that all of that traffic is going to, won't kill the grass or anything. You're at 18 right now with the NWSL. Your gut, and like I said, this is just you thinking out into the ether. Where do you think the ceiling is / should be for the NWSL? Because, I mean, like I said, they've gained 4 franchises, whether actually playing or coming up in future years, in short order. They're at 18. I know Philadelphia is kind of mad that that they'd like to be a part of this process. Where do you see the ceiling for the league when it comes to their future? Are they just going to cap it at X point, or are they just going to sit there and let it ride, do you think?
I think that I don't think at this point they have announced more expansion desires in the near term, and I think despite the kind of growth that we've seen from them recently in that department, I predict what I I don't know if hope is the right word, but what I would kind of suggest maybe. I think it's good to kind of tamper down a little bit. They talk a lot about the league talks a lot about being wanting to get the top talent, wanting to get the best, the best in the world. And I mean, we see it talk about the WNBA again. I mean, we see, what they're able to do with, their new CBA and paying players and kind of the money in the system. And I think that sometimes if you just grow and expand, I think there's a lot in the system that they can currently work around that's being worked on for sure. But I think there's kind of a lot when it comes to, I don't know, player experience, other ways to invest in it, other than getting a new team, a new market. I think it's been great in Denver and Boston. I think it's going to be amazing in Atlanta. I think it's going to be great in Columbus as well. But at the same time, I think kind of going with what they have, I think 18 is a lot. And I think I would hope that this league has a very long life, and I think that kind of stretching it out really quickly and not taking care of what's already here, the players that are here, what they want. I think there's plenty to work on in a growing league already. So I would say the excitement of expansion will be good, and then kind of let it ride for a while, see what new rivalries form, see what new dynasties form, and then kind of maybe reassess a few years after that. But who knows? We could be here, when Atlanta starts in 2028, and there's 6 new cities, because they're not going to have a problem of. I mean, I don't think that there's ever going to be a problem for them of like cities don't want a team at this point. Women's sports are just here, and people want them. So the Philadelphias, the Nashvilles, the Austins, these places that are huge soccer markets, and even places that MLS hasn't established a footprint either, that they could expand into more. You saw them strike first with San Diego. There's plenty of markets that we could sit here and spitball that I'm sure would put up 205 or more. So it's only a matter of time, but I think probably slowing down a little bit might be for the best.
Yeah, I'm thinking Margaret Fleming from Front Office Sports hanging out with us, discussing NWSL 2 C-Bus now that it is officially official. I mean, yeah, for me, I see all of this money coming in, and it's like, well, if you could address your salary cap issues, and maybe not just, that to me is just an entirely different thing. It's like, yeah, I know that the NWSL is trying to be hip. I get it. But if you would work on your salary cap problems and focus on that maybe for a couple of years, and then get that, instead of the hip rule and everything. Sorry, I got on my soapbox for 35 seconds.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. I mean, if they're going to keep adding owners, there's one side of the coin that's like, we have, or one side of the argument that's like, we have these new owners coming in who understand the expectation and are willing to go up in the salary cap. But at the same time, that doesn't erase the owners who are already there, who, you got to either convince to get on board or work with or whatever. I think, salary cap and facilities and, even just like professionalism, like investing in the health and performance. Like there's all these things that like players talk about. None of this is breaking news. We know about these things, and the league knows about these things, and the league, I think, wants to also invest in those areas. The league wants to grow the league and pay the players more. It's just a matter of like how to do that and run the business right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think all those areas are worth looking into, in addition to expansion. But I think expansion's been good and steady, and now maybe turning and focusing on.
Yeah, you got 4 new Christmas presents that you've opened up here, and it's like shiny bikes and computers and things like that. Maybe just I don't know. Maybe if you just kind of focused on the CD player and the laptop that you got a couple of years ago, and make sure that they're running at 100%. That would be for me, like I said. But the thing is, I think what this does when you have all of this new money coming in, and I guess it's capital N, capital M, new money, with expansion fees and the Haslams and Arthur Blank, and what you're seeing out of Boston and what you're seeing out of Denver with the celebs that are attached and private equity going to Bay. I think what this also does is it probably reminds the franchises, look, you don't have to break the bank if you want to do things your way. Because, I mean, if you want to build through an academy structure, like we see in Major League Soccer with some franchises. You build through an academy structure. You're successful that way. You're not blowing $9 gazillion a year, bringing in top talent from around the planet just to kind of be there. I think this gives the NWSL that opportunity to sit there and have each franchise figure out their own way. If they want to spend gazillion dollars, cool. If you want to build internally, fine. I think that when you get to right now at 18 franchises, you're like, okay, we'll figure out, okay, who wants to do it one way, who wants to do it another. I think that this is just another example of that.
I think the new teams that are coming in also raise the bar. I mean, I think Atlanta is going to raise the bar in a lot of ways, both for venue, but also, facility. You see tons of existing teams making new facilities. You see, the new teams coming in, building new venues, building new facilities. And just kind of, I think that raises the professionalism, the level across the league. You don't want to be the team that is left behind. It puts good pressure on. And like you said, I mean, every team, every market's going to have its own individual, advantages and disadvantages. One might have a facility, one might have the, like you said, the youth structure going. There's all different ways to kind of handle it and ways to spend and invest in the team. But yeah, I think it's only a good thing to put in these owners who, like, I think the cool thing too about, not to toot these people's horns that probably don't need it, but like it's cool to have these owners, in these 2028 owners coming in Atlanta and Columbus, who are these major NFL owners, these billionaires. They have plenty of money. That's got a lot of money for a league that wants it. But it's also like they're huge soccer people.
Mm-hmm.
They're huge soccer people. It's not just like they're here because it's cool to get in on women's soccer right now or something. They've clearly demonstrated a big interest in soccer, investment in soccer in each of their markets. And so I think it's kind of a unique pairing. To go back to the W again, you see a lot of times they like to pair with the NBA owners that they know have the capital to invest in the league. And I feel like that's kind of similar here to what the NWSL is doing, is like they're choosing these big time sports owners, these with this huge soccer focus and investment history, and saying like, we know that our players will be in good hands here. So I think that's kind of an interesting, trend from them. So
there is that. Yes, they view it as an investment, as a part of their portfolio, but at the same time, they get it. They understand the larger picture about growing the game.
Yeah, it's like these are people who are both smart in business and passionate about soccer, which I feel like, sometimes with sports owners, you don't always get both. It's a little mixed, or a lot of passions there, but the money side does not come through, or whatever it is. So I'm sure they will have plenty of problems in their own rights, but just from on paper, it all seems to be trending in the right direction.
Yeah. Another couple of moments with you before. Do we need to get a note to your bosses that you were kind of busy this morning? Yeah. Do you need like a please excuse Margaret from class kind of thing?
They know where I am. They know where I am.
Okay.
I'm hanging out as long as you want me to hang out.
Okay. Yeah. So you've got Kansas City that's built their own barn, and I think that's also another part of the process. One of the things that, and this is, like I said, this is just another pet peeve of mine, that when you have teams building facilities or going into venues, I think they're shortchanging themselves with their capacities. Boston, to me, with the whole White Stadium project and everything, I'm concerned that they're selling themselves too short. And I know that you want to maybe create artificial supply and demand with tickets and all that kind of stuff. But I've always thought if you're coming into Major League Soccer, you got to have a capacity of 30,000, because I think you're selling your fans short. And I think you're selling the game short, because you could do other things in that venue and continue to grow the game. What Kansas City's doing is fantastic. I just think the venue is too small. I hope that they can expand it without taking it into the river and having to do like pontoons and things in that one end zone. That's just really, honestly, for me, it's great that you're bringing folks in. I want the venues to be a true representation of the demand and the appreciation for the sport. Does that make sense?
I think that's super fair. I mean, I think Denver too, I might be totally wrong on this, but I think I remember that they're also, what they're building is smaller than, obviously it's smaller than what they filled at their home opener, but it's less demand. It's fewer seats than the demand that they've been seeing. Same with White Stadium. I mean, you kind of see two ends of the spectrum. In Atlanta, there's going to be, empty seats, which is okay, for big matches and for home openers and things like that. I'm sure that they can fill it up, and they might totally prove me wrong, and I hope that they do. I really hope that they do. But like, that's okay. I don't think anyone's expecting them to fill 70,000 seats for every single match. But they're gonna have empty seats, and on the other side, there's gonna be places that are already too small. Kansas City, it's tough because it's so cool to see these owners building facilities or stadiums, venues, to see like the players getting to play in a stadium that's for them, to get to see the sport have that and that level of investment. It's great to see it happening, and at the same time it is tough because it's like that they could fill 10,000 more seats, 20,000 more seats, 30,000 more seats, whatever it is. So yeah, it is tough. It's tough to see, especially for Boston, Denver, some of these that could probably fill a little bit more, but at the same time, I think that might just be something over the years that the owners kind of sense out demand and deal with. Maybe they turn into some kind of crazy tailgating situation instead. You never know what kind of solutions they might come up with, but yeah, it's kind of a tough situation. Then again, I mean, I feel like I keep talking about basketball here, but I just, I'm a big basketball fan also. You see the Golden State Valkyries, that's the new expansion team in the WNBA this last season. They filled out the Chase Center where the Warriors play, 18,000, I think 64 is the capacity, every single game. And there's teams in the W that have, 4,000 seats. And, there's just this disparity in women's sports more generally. Of the venue sizes, and I think eventually that might level out a little bit, but for now I think there's going to be this weird in between where some markets there are not enough seats, and other markets there are open seats, and yeah, maybe people travel a little more. I don't really know the right answer there, but yeah, it is unfortunate that there's going to be not enough seats for all the fans. At the same time, I think that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I think the way that it's probably going to work in Atlanta is for special events, special games. They're going to open up the full bowl, and they're going to try to smack the Denver record, right in the teeth. And I think that they probably will for that first match. But then what they do, it's the configuration that they have for Atlanta United, where big games, they open up the entire stadium. Other games, they'll have just the lower bowl, the 100s and the 200s, and that's 41,000. So I would imagine that's going to be the layout, is the season tickets for Atlanta 2028. They're going to be in that 41,000 configuration. And then for special events, they'll open it up like they always do for like the 75, 78, 80,000. I think that'll be the way of the world for Atlanta. I was looking up while we were talking about Denver. They go Mile High, and then they go to Dixon and Commerce City. Then Centennial, which is where they're going to supposedly in the summer, meant to seat 12, and it's going to serve as the team's home until at least 2028 when the team's owners hope, and this is from Denverite, team's owners hope to finish construction on a larger stadium in Denver's Baker neighborhood, and so they're looking at 2028 for stadium number 4 that they will have been in by the time that they will have gotten things rolling.
And the Centennial isn't open yet. They're building it now. That's going to be at their practice facility. Yeah, so it's
modular, probably one of those modular things, and you sit there and you look at it and go, okay, cool, I understand where you're going with this. So you are going to be incredibly busy. I don't know if you've heard about this World Cup thing that's happening. Front office, what's your coverage? What are you telling them that you need to do come 55 days from now? How busy are you going to be?
Goodness. I mean, very.
Premises, oh goodness, and backs up.
No, I mean, I'm super stoked. It's going to be awesome. I mean, that's what I signed up for. That's why I wanted to, switch over. I've only been doing soccer for a couple months now because I wanted to get, going before the tournament. And it's been crazy, but it's been awesome. And I'm really happy to be here. The summer's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. I'm going to be bouncing all over the place. I'm based in New York, and we have a lot of matches in New Jersey. It might, cost a little bit to get out to the stadium.
Get an Uber or just rent a car. Rent a car and pay for parking.
Yeah, the options are tough. We'll see if I can get one of those $150 train tickets. But
I don't want to know what the Hampton Inn, a couple exits down from the Meadowlands, is going to be charging for their nightly rate. That's why.
Probably a lot. So, all to say, I'll get to go to matches here, and I'm super pumped about that. Gonna try to hit up some around the country as well. Trying to see exactly where at this point, but hoping to catch U.S. in some places, hoping to catch Argentina, hoping to get to see some fan fests in different cities. I am super excited to see what the different fan fests look like. I think every city has had a different story there. Some places are really scaling back. Some places are really going for it. Some places are spreading it out among 10 different cities. And some places are saying we're going to have just one in the middle the whole time. And so I'm excited to see kind of what that looks like in every, I don't think I'll get to every city, and I
come on,
I sleep that I don't.
I can't wait to see your end of World Cup invoice, your travel report.
Oh gosh,
your reimbursement to FOS's front office when you're done with the thing. It's like, okay, so how many pages is that PDF? And it's like that thick, Wait, what is this? Where was this? Where was this at 3:00 in the morning? And insert market here.
Hopefully not too much 3:00 in the morning, but I appreciate that they're letting me do this, and excited and supporting me to do it. It's definitely not, the hotel prices and the flights, and a lot of these host cities are really nasty. So I appreciate them supporting me doing the World Cup. It's gonna be fun.
So then what I would like to do is when you figure out your itinerary, we'd like to have you in as a part of our normal World Cup coverage and discussing what you're seeing, whether it's games and all this kind of stuff. If you're marooned there in the tri-state and it's like, man, I only got to go to the Meadowlands for the semifinal. And it's like, oh, darn, we'll have to talk to you about that. Is it okay if we kind of bookmark you and sit there and it's like, yeah, we'd like to have you as a World Cup regular, kind of working your way through things if we're not like waking you up at a really obscene hour or something?
Sure, I'd love to. Yeah, that sounds awesome. It's gonna be fun wherever I'm at in the country. Yeah, I'm happy to jump in and help out. I would really like to make it to Atlanta. I'm hoping to get to come for the semifinal. That would be a big goal of mine. So yeah, that's up there. Hopefully,
we're going to be flying around all over the place. At least here in Atlanta, since we're anchored here, we've got a lot of live remotes and things like that. The morning show is going to be going on. We're going to have a nighttime show, the daily show that's attached to Jason on his 92.9 over on FM. That's daily. That's coming up daily to do a World Cup thing. Obviously, us in the morning show, so we'll all be incoherent and asking all of our guests to come in and talk about things as well. But yeah, when you know what your rundown is, let us know, and we'd like to sit there and we'd like to reserve you here, and here to talk about everything that's going on. The Twitch pitch has welcomed you with open arms. I believe you have been, since you've been added to the stacks. That's what we call our live chat, the Twitch pitch. And so they're like, hey, don't be a stranger, welcome aboard, all those kinds of things. Don't know what you've gotten yourself into probably, but nevertheless. So go and get your caffeine, and thanks for dropping by as now you always will. And for those that may follow on the Twitters and on the social medias, it is at FOS for Front Office Sports. And then it is MG Fleming 12. Was that the number that you wore?
That's my birthday.
1, 2, or 12?
12, actually.
Oh, wow.
I consider that a pretty good, I don't know. There's some birthdays that are just, I think a lot of people feel that way about their birthday, but I feel like
numerologists are sitting there and they're going, ooh, so it's the same thing. But as always, glad that we got you to rope in here to the morning show. And like I said, don't be a stranger. Honestly, if there's anything that you ever want to vent your spleen about, you know how to get in touch with me. And it's like, Yo Nelson, I got to come in here. I got to talk about something. And it's like, okay, fine. It is one gigantic morning party. And like I said, this is me and caffeine right now. So that's kind of how things work. go get your brunch and go hide in a cubicle and tell them that, yeah, man, they kept me for like an hour. I don't know what happened. So once again, thanks for dropping by, and we'll catch up with you soon. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Margaret Fleming, front office sports, and I think she's probably just going to go running off into the sunset now. She's like, I cannot believe, what have I just done? You know, it's like the scene at the end of the chase scene in the movie where you just see the star just kind of running off into the sunset, and it's just like, no, one of those. So Margaret Fleming, we now add her to the stacks. Jason's had her on his program on Atlanta Soccer Tonight. And so now we add Margaret to the stacks as well because of her coverage of soccer at front office and her NWSL coverage. And so it made too much sense to bring her in to be a part of things here on the morning show. So 2 guests down, 1 hour down.